Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Carolee Moore, founder of the Podcast Pitching Society. And I'm coming on here really quickly because I am excited. I mean, pretty much. I'm excited. We are launching our first digital product today for Black Friday. It is called the Profitable Podcast Pitch Kit. And I actually had something completely different that I wanted to talk about tonight on a live because I will be going live pretty much every day this week to talk about different parts of the pitch kit itself and breaking some things down. But before I get into all of that, right, what we do at the Podcast Pitching Society is we help experts who are already famous in their own right, in their own circles. We help them to use podcast guesting to get found, get chosen, get paid using strategic storytelling, right? But here is the thing that I've noticed. I have had people who were, PhDs, the certifications and the amount of letters behind their names, right? They've accomplished crazy things, Green Beret, crazy things, who came to me and were essentially like, I don't know what to talk about. And my first thought is like, what? And then you have people who are, and I will not say this person's name, but I met someone today on our launch call who's a professor who speaks in front of students daily, right? Who is questioning whether or not podcast guesting could actually work for her, whether or not she would be able to do this. And I want to remind you that a lot of times when we are questioning whether or not we can do something, it really isn't like from reality. It is our own stuff that we have to work through. My coach always talks about rhetoric versus receipts. And it is a reminder of like, you have some things in your mind that you've made true, but it's actually just rhetoric. It's not really based in reality because your rhetoric is, hey, I don't know what to say. I don't have the words to say. I don't know, whatever. And the receipt is, you've been talking in front of a class for years, right? You have been teaching people and getting people to understand really complex ideas and simplifying those ideas into bite-sized, like bite-sized, what is it? Drawn a blank, bite-sized and like words that they can understand. Lord, I'm sleepy, y'all. Forgive me. And then you forget like all the things that you've already done. And I think a lot of people fall into this trap, and it really does mess with you because if you have that mindset, there is very little chance that you're going to actually take steps, like real steps to be visible. Because in your mind, you're already thinking, just putting my do not disturb on. In your mind, you're already thinking like, I can't do this. So if you have a part of you that's already telling you, I can't do this, and you are trying, like putting effort in, how far do you think that effort is going to take you if your mind is back here saying, can't do this? You're not going to be able to go as far as you would have been able to go had your mind not be stuck in, I can't do this. And a lot of people, doesn't matter what their resume looks like, they're stuck in that place. They're stuck in the place of, I can't do this. This won't work for me. That's great that it worked for you. This won't work for me. And then we get stuck in that one place. So I want to talk about today our actual pitch. I hate calling it a template, but the base of our pitch system. Because this is where I think a lot of that kind of I don't know. I don't know if this is for me. A lot of that is going to get addressed because one, it's going to force you to think through, okay, what is the unique thing that I talk about that only I can talk about because I have actually had these experiences? I have a friend who is now into AI, but she was actually building multi six-figure businesses in the event production space. And before that, she was doing video and audio editing. She's had multiple lives, had multiple businesses, all the things. When she comes now and she's talking about AI, she is going to be able to speak from a place of facts, right? Systems that she's built out, areas in which only her, with her background and her various different skill sets, will actually make sense, right? That is unique. And yes, there's a whole bunch of people talking about AI. She, though, is unique because she has her very unique experiences. It's not this kind of weird woo woo thing. It's reality. There's only one you. There's only one you that has had the experiences that you've had. And that collection of experiences is worth a lot more than you think, right? If you're able to package that up into your pitch, that is really going to be the thing that gets people to think like, wow, I've never thought of this thing this way. As much as there are millions or thousands or hundreds of thousands of people with the same degree, you're coming with your own experiences, your own perspective, and not to mention your own lived experiences on top of your professional experiences, right? Because as a marketer, I'm one thing. As a storyteller, I'm one thing, but I'm an immigrant, right? I was born in a different country. I'm a Black woman. Like all of these things will impact how I tell stories. All of these things will impact how I view relationships and building those things. It matters. And you can bring your whole self into your pitch and actually get someone to be excited. And they just had someone who, quote unquote, does the same thing a few weeks ago, only because you've positioned yourself. That's the marketing term. You've positioned yourself as someone who can speak from a different angle, from a different perspective. And now you're still going to be saying some of the same things that that person's saying, but your perspective is unique. And catch this. Someone listening can listen to those same voices and get something completely different and be so transfixed with your story and your perspective and your viewpoint of how you explain and break things down or whatever, that yes, they heard both of y'all speak, but they actually now reach out to you saying, hey, I want to work with you, even though they need the same solutions that both of y'all offer. But because of how you've positioned yourself and how you speak to that person, they're getting it. And that is the power of the pitch. When you're able to show, whether it's a show or a client or wherever you're pitching, right? This idea of like, hey, I'm simply introducing myself and letting you know who I am and what I bring to the table. If you're able to position that in a way where someone can say, wow, I've never thought of something like this way before. I've heard so many people talk about this idea, whether it's marketing, AI, anything that's like overdone. Same thing with visibility, honestly. But you've heard it differently this time. You're like, okay, this is different. And I want to know more. And I think my audience would actually find value from this. I think is awesome. Right. So this foundation, the reason why it's dope is because it's less on some like cheesy, I've listened to this particular episode of your podcast and it was awesome. Like, what about it was awesome? Be like, hey, I listened to your episode with Susan B. Anthony. I was gonna go there. I listened to your episode with, honestly, my competitor, and I found his perspective on blah 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 to be interesting because, and whatever, I come from this other space, and I really whatever it is, you can essentially say, I've listened to this podcast. I heard this perspective on your podcast. I really found it intriguing. And I either wholeheartedly agree, and here is why, and here is how I would actually deepen that understanding, or I wholeheartedly disagree, and here is why, and here's my, the things that I think would actually be different. because then that not only says, okay, yeah, I listened to your podcast. It says I'm a thought leader. I've thought about your podcast. I've thought about the things that you've said. And it hits a little bit different, a little bit harder than someone who's just trying to come and like use your platform. Now, is that what you're trying to do? Yes, but you don't want it to like, you have to serve as well, right? It's a give and get situation. It's not a get and get. You giving and getting. And so for this pitch, you want it to come off very much like not client, podcast host and podcast audience centric, not me centric, right? Not self-centered. Every information that you're giving them in that pitch has to be to the benefit of their audience, period. Most people are doing podcasts to serve their audience so their audience comes back and eventually buys from them, right? We're talking about business podcasts here. That's strictly what I'm talking about. Most people are starting their business podcasts as a way to lead gen. And if they're trying to lead gen, you want to help them get there as fast as possible. One way of doing that is by having really interesting conversations that this particular group of people would find very, very cool. And of course, the bonus here is because you've done your due diligence to find the right show, you know the audience is also your audience or your ideal clients. And so therefore, it's a win-win-win for everyone involved. But it starts with that pitch. You have to showcase. You understand who their audience is. The best way for you to actually get a podcast host to think of you differently than the hundreds and sometimes thousands of other pitches that they're getting per month is you showcase, I know your show. I've listened to your show. I've listened to the perspectives on your show. I have actual new perspectives and new things that I would love to provide. And I know who you're actually talking to. I know what their pain points are. I know what, that whatever I'm going to talk about is actually going to help them, right? There's a certain level of like, all right, she gets it. He gets it. Let's go. And that is like really the power of having that base set. Now in the kit, we offer 5 other parts that you can plug into your pitch to make it truly unique. We're going to go over some of these other parts as the week goes on, but I wanted to kind of talk about those 2 things. The first one being like why you're really hiding from visibility. And it has nothing to do with like you not being ready, you not having the skills, you not know, like you probably certified up to your nostrils right now. You got letters upon letters upon letters behind your name. You've gone to school for God knows how long. I mean, from 18 to probably close to 40. Like you are it. Okay. You've done the work. That's not the problem. It's up here. And honestly, the only way you're going to be able to get past that is to simply do it scared. You're not going to have a moment where it's going to be, you're going to go from holy crap, I'm terrified to this is a piece of cake without putting in the reps and frankly, stinking up the joint, right? But you want to give yourself an opportunity to get into that rhythm. And so I would strongly suggest that you actually get the help that you need, not in a sense of necessarily completely do it for you. You can, obviously, that's what we do. But as a baby step to kind of figure out, okay, is this really something that I can see myself doing? Get on some podcasts first, like some ones that are inconsequential. I hate saying that, but whatever. So you can kind of practice and see if you like it. Because if you like it, if you really want to use podcast guesting as a lead generating situation, it takes more than just like sort of kind of showing up. You're going to have to really commit. And that first part, of course, is the pitch. You're going to have to commit to sending really solid, really customized pitches to shows that you actually want to be on. And this, I'm saying those words on purpose, right? Because Can you actually just spray and pray to a whole bunch of shows? Yes. A lot of people are currently doing that as we speak. Okay. You can absolutely do that. But if your goal is to get on quality Right Fit podcast and actually leverage it for more than just like I was there, you want to avoid that. You also want to avoid ruining your good name, because if you spray and pray and you accidentally spray to someone that is a reputable podcast, now they're looking at you sideways. And if you ever came back to try and like, okay, I'm gonna do this the right way and try to pitch that same show, they might actually remember your janky, you know what I mean, super, super generic pitch. So be mindful of the reputation that you're building. And that's why I suggest like, you know, really doing some research beforehand and creating a pitch that actually works for that show, because you genuinely want to be on the show. Don't just like spray and pray and just go wherever random. That's for people who want to be mediocre. You're not that. And so I encourage you to take the time to write quality pitches for quality shows that you actually would like to be on. And it is okay if they say, hey, we're not necessarily accepting guests right now. Then you ask them like, when can I actually resubmit? And you keep it moving. There are also other times where you clearly can see the kind of guests that they've had on might have a profile that has more social media followers or more engagement or whatever. Look at what they're doing and then try to build that up over the next 3 or so months, and then resubmit a pitch that is stronger, etc., to the same show, and show them like, no, I really want to get on here, right? There's different ways to do it. Of course, there's a pay to play way, all of that to say like, this is intentional. And if you really want to do this, there is no like easy way around it. It's going to take a lot of work. It just is, which is why I have a whole agency dedicated to doing the work for 6 and 7 business owners, 6 and 7 figure business owners, because it's a lot of work. But if you want to do it the do it yourself way, you absolutely can. And the pitch kit that we're launching today like helps you to do that. Period. So at the end of the day, that's all I'm here to say is you already have all you need, and with intention, you can actually make this into a serious lead generating opportunity while you're doing other things, of course, because this is a long-term play. This is not something that if you are strapped for cash and you about to get evicted or all kinds of things tomorrow that you try to do. It just is not, right? Let's just be clear on that. However, this is, and mark my words, 2026, this is going to be one of the fastest growing channels to market your business and actually get qualified leads in 2026. I promise you. I promise you. And you do not want to be left behind. I keep saying that because it's true. Okay. Anyways, I will see y'all tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're watching the replay on this, hit replay in the comments so I can see people who are watching it after. If you watch it all the way to this, thank you. And I will see you tomorrow. Be sure, again, I dropped the link for you to actually grab the kit. Quiet as it's kept. I didn't want to say that at the beginning, but if you watched this far, the link is in the chat. If you want to get the kit today with all 5 bonuses, which includes us creating an entire list, a six podcast list for you, which is a done for you part of this whole thing. Like that comes in free just today, because that is gone tomorrow, because that is extra work on my team. All right. Well, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.